Today we are talking with Elena Tonetti-Vladimirova, a pioneer in the conscious birthing movement and the founder of Birth into Being, a method for clearing birth trauma and beyond. Elena has actually retired, but decided to do one more workshop, which is coming up very soon. Let's jump right in. We are talking to Elena Tonetti-Vladimirova.
Drum roll. You did it. Yes. That is.
And so thank you so much for coming on here with me. I so appreciate it because I feel like I know you said like you've said all that you want to say on this topic.
Well, yeah, in a sense, because words are just words. They're addressing the cortex, what we used to think of as the brain. But then we also have our physiology that doesn't seem to always connect with the cortex. That's why I want that chocolate. And the body says, no, I'm pre-diabetic, don't do that. And there is that part that is like, but I want that chocolate, or there is that part, I want to rest, I need a nap, I really need to stop running. And the cortex says, but the deadline, stay up, here is another cup of coffee. So there is this obvious um, fragmentation of our system, and it's good to know all the good words and read the books to help us sort out our drama maybe, but then living the truth is a whole other ball game, because that requires defragmentation of the hard drive. So the body, the emotion, and the cortex, the thinking cap,
Yeah.
could function together all as one unit. This is what it's supposed to be like. So it's kind of a storybook phenomena that the maybe couple dozen psychotherapists that I know personally that are amazing, beautiful people, but they don't have successful relationships. They
Right.
know all the words, but they don't know how to bring it into the flesh, into the bones. So,
And that's
yeah,
that word embodiment, right?
it's right. That
That's what that word is all about, right? Taking it from here up here, like I read it, I understand it, to living it.
right. And just living your truth is also could be disconnected, because the body might be strong and healthy, but the person is a hot mess.
Yeah.
Like there is, I know that type of people too, when they're even yoga teachers and very beautiful physically, but emotionally uh, just in disarray. So that's again depending on which aspect of our beingness sits on the driver's seat.
Right.
It could be
Right.
the cortex, it could be the reptilian brain that is right here on top of the spinal cord and drives our physiology, our ability to perform, to build muscle, to get pregnant, to procreate in general. That's the part of the brain that does the birthing. Even a woman in a coma can give birth, can get pregnant and give birth. That's the most amazing part about the body, that,
Wow.
yeah,
I
that,
didn't even think of that. That's interesting. I didn't even think of that, but of course that makes sense because the body's still working. She's just not
right,
coherent.
right. But she's not there.
Yeah,
It,
but she's not there.
there were reported situations when um, patients were raped, like a horrible trauma, but the body kept doing the thing that the body does.
That's pretty tragic, one, to be able to get pregnant during while you're in a coma. So that's some atrocities that went down there.
Yeah, well, it's even more weird that the body can actually go through the process and deliver the baby. That actually usually wakes them up. That's one way to wake up in childbirth. It's not funny, but it's just
This
the
this will wake you up, girl.
nothing else.
If
But
nothing else.
we shouldn't be laughing at it because it's really a tragedy.
Yeah.
But then again, we have to be able to laugh at tragedies because that's how we combat them.
Yeah, I feel like in my journey so far, the bringing the humor in and the pure absurdity of some of the things that we experience is comical. It's like the great comedy of life. Like
And
how,
the bubble, like if there is this larger than life drama and somebody cracks a joke that is like really funny, it's just it pokes the bubble and everybody laughs and all of a sudden the veil lifts and okay, I can do this. Like, for example, when my house got burned in Paradise in California, I had this big experience when I had to drive for half an hour through the walls of open flames, and just the whole town vanishing in front of my very eyes.
what's
And there was this deep dissociation that allowed me actually not to freak out, panic, and just keep steadily driving through. This is actually nature's merciful mechanism that allows us to compose and just stay focused on one task. I remember that feeling exactly how I was focusing on my breath in this incredible heat inside the car. It was so much heat because of the fire like all around the car of the and I got out, and within minutes I was at my daughter's house, and um, my partner said, well, you told me to clean the garage. He said something to that extent, like that's one way of decluttering the garage.
right?
We all bent forward. Just
Oh my God.
right. Yeah.
Right.
We we don't
Uh,
have to deal with that.
Everything's gone. Oh my gosh, that's intense. But
Yeah,
yes, that comedy in the face of that, in the face of tragedy.
right. Or just the intensity, like when a woman is giving birth and there is like the crescendo up to like umpteen degree that there is nothing more significant. There is something that it did not exist before arriving slowly into existence, into our three-dimensional reality. And it's very um, overwhelming sensation, just the significance of that experience, witnessing it or being inside of this journey. And if somebody has the wits to crack a joke, like really funny joke, oh, that makes it so much easier. It's like it shifts the whole process to the next quantum level. It's really uh, sense of humor is precious. It's there for a good reason. It's our survival tool. No matter how tough it gets, you crack a joke, it gets easier.
Am I correct in saying that you are the person who is responsible for bringing the awareness of water birth into the US?
Well, along with a few other people, but I did my two pennies worth. Yeah. This is where I started, but water birth was not my focus. My focus was conscious birth.
Conscious.
And whether it's in water or in the backseat of the car, as long as a couple brings consciousness and mindfulness in the way they are connecting with that soul that they are becoming responsible for the for a few years, how they conceive, how they gestate, how they birth, and how they raise that baby. This is a much bigger picture than just water birth. It's like anybody can get in the water, oh, if they want to, but by itself, it's not really going to do the job, because, okay, it gives a woman a very nice resting place, but then what about the rest of the story? If she and the baby daddy are not on the same page about having this child, that's not going to be of help. If she did not have a really good lifestyle and mindful choices about her, like, choices, behaviors, diet, exercising, if she was neglecting herself emotionally or mentally or physically, just getting in water is not going to be the answer. It will give her a nice resting moment to just regroup and collect, because water is very restful. Place anybody in warm water, everything gets easier, life gets easier, right?
True,
But it's
yeah.
not address the larger issues.
That makes sense. So it's more of a holistic, conscious approach. Yeah. I'm about to do this retreat in Tulum for sacred sexuality, right? And that's kind of where all of it starts. Conscious coupling, choosing your partners with almost like a spiritual intent. You're not just doing the physical aspect of sex. You're you're using those forces to a higher purpose.
Well, if that's the case, because a lot of people do just get involved in recreational sex for the sake of sex, and it's like, I guess, whatever keeps them out of the bars, it's
And
great.
what happens is then you have, you're just recreational having sex, and then now you're pregnant. Then what? So now you haven't
Yeah.
conceived consciously.
Right. If a woman is of childbearing age and is considering having a child, it's better for her to realize sooner than later that there is much more involved in the picture. There is soulful layer of connecting with the father of the child and of the child, because even if the child is still in non-existence, but the soul is already somewhere in limbo.
Yeah.
There is a lot of
Chosen.
speculations, right? There is a lot of bits and pieces flying around.
Yeah, I would say the soul is it chosen this body. So you have a
Right.
body growing
So
inside you now, and the soul is like, ooh, I'll take that one.
right. So it's much better to mindfully conduct some pre-incarnational agreements, because there is that soulful level of the um, future human being that is correlated with their emotional body, their feeling, censoring body. But then there is also another range of frequencies, is their spirit. That is their divine masculine, soul being divine feminine, spirit being divine masculine. When there is the drive, the purpose for this incarnation. There is um, that level of connection from the spirit of the parent, the both of their spirits. of parents with the spirit of the child. So it's a very multidimensional complexity of agreements and
Mm.
building. Like if you want a specific future, you need to act in the present. You need to really ground yourself in your own essence, because um, there is something like 32% infertility rates right now in the US. And I think this is because of the degree of mindless approach to that whole procreation um, activity, because there is correlation with about 32% C-section rates.
Wow.
Women like starting my age category, which is late 60s, and for their own, I think it's still in low 30s rates of C-section rates. And C-section seemed like a very benign experience. Okay, that's a major abdominal surgery. And, a woman opts out because she doesn't know what she is missing. And she thinks, well, that's great. I fall asleep and I wake up with a baby. The repercussions are so gigantic, because a girl, a baby girl, learns about giving birth by being born. So a woman born by C-section doesn't have that software downloaded. It's the whole missing piece.
Oh, I
She
love that.
literally does not have the activation of her innate capacity to give birth. And this is a very, very tragic situation, because look at the amount of catastrophes around the world right now. If you're counting on this perfect operation room with sterile metal sharp objects and bright lighting, and a team of surgeons that are standing by to give your C-section. But what if there is a flood or earthquake or tornado, hurricane, and you can't get to the hospital? That sterile room is simply unavailable. We don't hear about that side of all the tragedies, what happens to all the pregnant women that are in the areas of disasters. It's it,
Mm.
really something to think about, that we gave away willingly the power of procreation to the medical establishment that doesn't really know much about birth. In medical textbooks, there's nothing about natural birth. It's all about how to manage pain chemically, surgically. It's all about what to do,
Yeah.
and there is nothing about the fact that actually you don't have to do anything. If a woman is in her power, if she's defragmented, if she's in innate connection with the core of her divine feminine, she does not need some guy to come in and manage her. That's the whole point why the story unfolded the way it unfolded. Somebody wanted to feel needed and significant, and women were told that they actually, that was in writing in medical textbooks, that women are not unable to give birth by themselves. It's yeah,
That's insane.
yeah,
It's
it
part of
is.
the
But
part of the stripping of a woman's power.
Yeah, it's insane, but it's upgraded to the status of norm that women are deemed less than God's creatures, you know. Every single species on this beautiful little planet Earth knows how to procreate, how to replicate itself, except people. Like, what were you thinking? You know, it's like, what?
What? Yeah, I feel like the fear around birth is just astronomical. I mean, I've spoken to some younger, on the younger side, women who have just decided that they don't even want to try to have a child. They don't want to have children because they're just scared of giving birth.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's not them speaking, it's their birth trauma speaking. It's the way they were born,
Mm.
embedded that terror. They're terrified of giving birth because their own birth was so terrifying.
That's interesting. I'm so feeling that what you're saying. That makes perfect sense because there's that energetic connection, that spiritual connection that we don't or haven't in the past really taken into consideration at all. That it's just some medical procedure. You're just going to get the baby out and that's it. But
Right,
there's this whole spiritual imprinting process that happens like through the journey, through the tunnel that the medical system just disregards completely. It's just not connected.
right. Well, it's not just spiritual, it's purely physiological because when the baby is ripe and ready to get out of mama,
Right.
it's the baby who initiates birth. Like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to get out. Bing. There's all those um, chemicals that the ripe fruit emanates, and the mother's body responds chemically.
To
I mean,
those chemicals.
the
Yeah.
correct amino acids start forming in her brain, and she starts producing all the necessary hormones to go completely lucid and stretchable and relaxed. The amount of oxytocin that normally supposed to flood her bloodstream is beyond any LSD, any ecstasy. It's like her internal brain lab is able to produce an absolutely unlimited amount of oxytocin that she
I
could.
can vouch for that because that is some wild drugs right there. What
I
your body
know.
produces is unlike anything on this planet. You can't spend enough money to buy this stuff.
Exactly. And that is the natural order of things. That's how any cat gives birth. You know, she climbs under the bed and lets the kittens out. And any wild animal, domesticated animals actually might encounter troubles because they absorb anxieties of their human friends. But in the wild, that is what nature does. The body is supposed to be able, the female body is supposed to be able to produce that amount of this high. So she just relaxes and surrenders and stretches and opens and gets gets the fruit of her love.
Right?
Right.
So
And
I guess it's kind of like if you would pick like baby bananas off the tree that were green and they weren't fully grown, and then trying to put them in a hot house off the and like grow them and ripen them, and they're never as good as if you wait for them to ripen on the tree and get them then when they're ready.
yeah, the nature is not as stupid as medical profession tries to portray it.
Right.
There is an incredible power embedded in the body. All the the mending mechanisms, all of the self-regulating mechanisms. Our bodies are nothing short of miracle, literally. It's not a metaphor for me. I am my own witness that the body can bounce off it from like almost point of no return if there is something. There is a trick to it though. Why some people bounce and some not? Why are some women able to go into this ultimate high giving birth and some people end up handicapped and never want to have sex again and just terrified of it, and their daughters are terrified of it? There is that, what I mentioned before, the fragmentation of the system.
Right.
When imagine that my mental layer is pulling me in one direction, says that, okay, we need to finish university, find the right guy with the right shoes and right car and right salary, and we do that, and the body says like, I am oozing with juices. I am so and there is that, and imagine that. And if one part of me is pulling me in this direction and one part of me is pulling me in this direction, where am I going? I mean, it depends on which part is stronger, but
Yeah.
then whichever one I choose, the other one is unhappy.
Yeah.
The other one is going to undermine the efforts of the stronger pull. When we're not on the same page,
Yeah.
we are really not self-sustainable.
How would you recommend that you get into alignment there, like get the brain and the body on the same page?
That's an obvious next question. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we don't even know that we are not in alignment with our, let's use the word integrity. This is lack of integrity when we're fragmented. Integrity means that all the aspects are integrated, that I own my physiology, I'm connected with my physiology, I'm trusting my cortex to make the decisions that are a win-win-win for everything. And let's not forget the emotional aspect, which is actually its all separate continent in the brain. It's governed by the limbic brain, while physiology is governed by the reptilian brain, and the mental process is governed by cortex. So it's a very complex task if we did not have a role model in our formative period of somebody who was integrated and in alignment with themselves. So ideally it would be, first of all, understanding that there is part of me that wants something opposite to what the other part of me wants. And the example that I brought, like the body wants the baby and the cortex doesn't want the baby, it could be the opposite, because the brain, the cortex might be saying, it's time, I'm 35, it's now or never, all my girlfriends have babies already, my grandma is gonna disown me if I'm not gonna have a baby next year, my husband is gonna divorce me, I have to have a baby now. Like, let's get on with the program. And the body might be like, no fucking way. I don't know how to do this. I don't want it. It's like, what's going to happen with my waistline? What about my wardrobe? It's beautiful. I don't want to, and it's going to hurt. I don't want to, that's the body might be still in the post-traumatic um, um, condition from her own birth, that she never actually managed to find a way of neutralizing her birth trauma, and now it's running the show. It's ruining her destiny if she, specifically if she has some kind of pre-incarnational agreements with the soul of another human being that is waiting for the portal to open, and she is still in shock from her own birth, even though she's 35. That's the thing. Time doesn't really heal anything.
The birth
It's
trauma. So, and that actually leads me right to like into your work. You are regressing people back to release that trauma. Is that part of what it is?
it's part of it. Yeah, birth into being method includes 40 very, very different processes and exercises.
We are in that age where we're shifting into the matriarchy. And it's so important for women to know this and be connected to their parents. It's been going on for a while, obviously. But I feel like even this year, it's like a crucial year of transition.
Absolutely, not a moment too soon, because uh, it's traceable. Like our trajectory as civilization is tracing our birth practices. For example, look at the drug culture of the 60s, right? It definitely corresponds with introduction of drugs in the maternity ward in the 40s. Look at how much louder do you want that scream to you that when you introduce drugs into the mother, then the teenager is gonna crave a substance.
Wow, I just got chills when you said that. Seriously.
Yeah, the
Wow.
way we make people defines the quality of our species, period. And the mess we see right now, the confusion, the disoriented generation, look further. Look how they were born. It really is that simple. And humans knew that for thousands of years. They knew that if you take a wild stallion from the steppe, from its natural environment, you can't convert that wild horse into the war animal, right? You can't drive it onto the spears onto the enemy. You have to train the baby horse that it's normal, because the horse is just not going to do it. There's nothing you can do to make a wild animal behave the way you want.
Right.
Or circus bears. Take a grown-up wild bear and try to teach it new tricks, right? Good
Yeah,
luck.
I mean, that's about, the story of the elephant, that's the baby elephant that's chained up.
Exactly,
It's a
exactly,
classic story.
exactly. But if you train the baby bear that doing all those tricks, it's perfectly normal. Okay, we will have a happy circus bear. And this is basically what's happening with us.
Yeah.
Human.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I am doing what I'm doing around sacred sexuality is that, um, so that people are more conscious in their sexual creations, which leads to more conscious birthing, which leads to a more conscious humanity and
Right.
more beautiful earth experience for everyone.
Exactly. And it also allows the uh, baby's parents to actually stay together after the baby's born, because in the normal life of a like average couple, they don't go back to a happy sexual life after the childbirth, because the it changes a woman. Giving birth is so incredibly huge in a woman's world, whether it was orgasmic or it was terrifying agony, it changes her. The woman after giving birth is not the same woman she was before she conceived the child, period.
Right.
And I don't understand how it is not in the textbooks of, like, it should be in sex ed in seventh grade, because people don't know that simple. It's very pragmatic piece of knowledge to have, that a couple needs to learn the new ways of sexual interaction after they have a child, because the first round did what it needed to do. They got the baby. And now, in order for them to stay and create the harmonious, loving home for that baby to be brought in, they they need to learn each other's sexual language. And this is a skill. You know, when you're young, it's just hormones. It's, you know, the hard and strong might do this. But then after a woman had a child, most women are not interested in hard and strong. They have to learn what works for them. And women being women, we're always different. We're changing, not only throughout the time of the month, but year to year, even day to day, we're different. We are different. And if a guy is lazy and just wants to put it in and get it off, it's like, it's going to be trouble. She is not going to want him. Hello?
Yeah, it doesn't work that way anymore. It's like you can get away with that before birth, but I feel like for me, I did have like just ecstatic, orgasmic, otherworldly birthing experience. So after that, I was wanting so much deeper a connection. I want a deeper connection. I want more love, more love, more love, more love. And if you can't deliver that level that now I've experienced through the birthing process, I just am not interested.
Exactly. And for guys, they don't know that. They're like,
They don't
well, that
understand.
worked. That was fine. She liked it. And now she's bored with me. Oh, poor me. Right? But that's the thing. If a woman had horrible birth, she's too traumatized to go right back where she was. If she had ecstatic birth, the man becomes nuisance if he is not moving on into this uncharted cosmic scale of pleasure. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's lost in the dust if she had this incredible experience. The biggest drama is that it needs to be addressed before the earlier the better, before they conceive, because after they conceive, it gets tricky. And after the birth is already behind them, the woman is not very verbal. That's the thing. She is on baby brain. She can't, not only she cannot explain what she wants, she doesn't know what she wants. It's like she would be happy to explain. She can't. And that communication is already broken. So it needs to be established before they even start talking about conceiving a child. They need to create the base, the solid, reliable base of communication, of safe words, of like SOS signals, of body language, of deep understanding what happens. Because, see, she went through this gigantic life altering experience and nothing happened to him,
Mhm.
especially if he wasn't at birth, which is the majority of men. Nothing changed. He's the same dude, you know, and that's his frustration, his deepest frustration. Like, what did I do? I'm the same guy she fell in love with.
Yeah.
And then the baby has the beautifully born baby has to grow up with two people screaming at each other or withdrawing from each other, divorcing, splitting. This beautiful, sensitive baby is now in dual homes, having to split between parents and bring in the stepmother, stepdad, and it's like, and it's all really, really rooted in the skill set of sexuality. Because if the guy is able to show up, the woman would never let him go. The
Mhm.
woman has that deep pragmatic, no matter how ungrounded she is, she knows if it's a good guy, she needs to kind of rise up to the occasion and keep him because
Right?
hard to find.
Yeah, it is. I feel like there's this after birth, there's a new communication that needs to happen. And what you're saying is establish the basis of that, because if you know that she's going to change drastically,
Right.
knowing that up front, you can navigate, like pre-plan for that, even though it is uncharted territory for a woman and you don't know exactly how you're going to change through the process.
Exactly.
But if he shows up, then in support, like how would you recommend that he shows up? How do you think, what would be a good way to explain people how to navigate this beforehand?
Well, step number one, no matter what you do, step number one, neutralize your own birth trauma. That's step number one. No matter what you do, uh, your own birth trauma prevents you from having successful business, successful relationships, successful delivery of your baby. Your birth trauma prevents you from knowing who you are. Because you see, a lot of women are now like, I have right to say my truth.
Mhm.
But is it your truth or is it your birth trauma speaking? Like, is it your trauma response that you mistake for your truth?
I'm
Because
getting chills again. Elena, give me chills. Yes. Keep going. I'm sorry.
it's a um, very different experience to be in touch with your truth with a capital letter, or just rant your anxiety and vent your fears and your superstitions and just scream in pain because you were hurt. You know, that pain is legitimate, but it's not the truth of who you are. It's real, but underneath all that experience that shapes maybe our choices, our decisions, you know, we are driven by our desire to stay safe and not be hurt again. It's only very natural. But underneath of all that, we are not what happened to us. Underneath all of it, you know, it's the it's very layered and very complex. It's not like, oh, she is the way she is. No, nobody is the way they are, because we have so many layers of conditioning, and all the layers of past traumas are interfering with our knowing our biggest truth, that the bottom line underneath all of it is that bliss is our only true nature. That ecstatic sensation that we have before we are even conceived, when we're just a speck of consciousness in the vast ocean of eternity of bliss. You know, that's our true nature. Everything else is learned. Everything else is a side effects of a bunch of bad habits
Yeah.
that we acquired, our mothers acquired, our foremothers, you know, 10 generations down, our civilization, our national karma, our, you know, geographic karma. It's just, oh, but that's the thing, that if we find a, a time and presence of mind to just stop, like, okay, I see that I ran myself into the impasse again, because usually they run in circles. We think we found a very different guy and we go for them, and in 2 months he's the same guy that we thought that we ran away from. You know,
Right,
that's the perpetual limbic attractor at work. It even has a name, limbic attractor, because
limbic attractor.
limbic attractor, the way we draw people and situations into our life and interact with them, we kind of bound to fit into each other's key into a walk. And even if a woman would attract the guy who treats her well, but her imprint is to be abandoned and neglected, he's bound to start acting as if abandoning and neglecting her, even though he says he loves her, but somehow his job will take him to the other side of the globe, or he gets sick and bound to stay in the hospital. I mean, even with his intention to be loyal and present for her, there would be manifested somehow circumstances of separation, because that's in her imprint, and that's the name of her game.
It's
See,
truly mind-blowing when you think about the intricate nature of us,
right,
our body, mind, spirit complex, as some call it. It's really fascinating
right, and
that would happen. And I've seen it happen in my life many, many times. But I want to ask you this question because you mentioned this before, and I kind of feel like it's coming up here a little bit. The difference between the soul and the spirit.
well, in my understanding, and don't quote me on this, everything I say is basically my conclusion after working with thousands of people. I noticed that the soul level, like when we say we connect on the soul level, it's the heart level, it's our emotions, our sensory apparatus, our divine feminine, our state of being, of either we're open and in an expanded state, or we're contracted and not allowing a connection. That's our soul. The spirit is our divine masculine, when it's our mind. The mind is the tool, the spirit. It's very focus oriented. It drives us. That's what drives us to incarnate in the first place. Like, okay, I can't do it in the spirit world because you don't have arm and legs when you're in a speck of consciousness. If you want to see something happening on this planet, you have to have a body. So you have to actually walk this earth in order to experience something or get something done. So that's the difference. And then there is a body that is actually a tool of the soul and the spirit, but they have to be in alignment. Like there is the body, there is the soul, there is the spirit. It's kind of like Russian Matryoshka doll,
Yeah.
those dolls. And
Yeah.
they need to be in alignment, because if one of them is off center, the whole system can collapse, or it becomes dysfunctional. So they start competing, like, no, this is my center. No, this is my center. No, this is my center, and all the desires that we think, things that we want, they all come from that sense of fragmentation. If only I have this yacht, I will be totally happy. It's never going to do it for you, because you're still remaining fragmented. Nothing that you can own, nobody you can be in relationship with that can make up for that state of feeling misaligned.
And so that misalignment would be the defragmentation.
Right, right. But the defragmentation is when you come into one center. All your systems become centered in one center of gravity of your body. Like you are in your center, and then all the other systems and all the other dimensions are kind of supporting that wholesome, centered, grounded. It's very grounded, but it's also very cosmic because the sky is the limit where the spirit can travel, right? And when it's connected properly, that gives you an incredible source of rejuvenation, inspiration. You're sexy, you're creative, you're healthy, you're resilient, you're glow in the dark kind of girl. And from that place, you can give birth, you can create a poem or write a book, or have a good, balanced, harmonious relationship when you understand that you are a grounded, centered person and you're able to attract a grounded, centered person. Because we usually attract people who match our distortion. So if you don't like who you're with, look at yourself, basically, because we normally attract the missing pieces. So I started telling you about birth into being method because I've done it for 40 years and brought in bits and pieces, not to leave any rocks unturned. So, well, there are some missing pieces, like I don't touch on nutrition at all. There is just not enough time in the workshop, but also all my life I was able to digest anything and everything. I never had to look into nutrition and stop and think. It was never my strong point. I don't understand anything about nutrition because everything I listen to is contradicting. Eat meat, don't eat meat. Eat dairy, dairy. And it's like, I'm just going to eat what I want. And it works for me. So I don't dare talking about nutrition. Go to somebody else who thinks they know something.
Yes, yes. I feel like nutrition is so individual for people too.
Right. Exactly. And one person's cure could be another person's poison. But what I do understand is that if you want to align yourself and know what you want, because a lot of people don't know what's good to eat for them, right? Because they're fragmented. So if you are bringing yourself into that alignment, then you would have an innate understanding what feels good for you, how your body responds to different things. So I kind of put together, it's called Breath into Being method. It consists of 40 very, very different processes and exercises. Some of them are done as a group, some of them are in tiny groups of 3 people, some of them are one-on-one with me or with the facilitator. I actually retired a few years ago. But now I'm coming back for one workshop. That's kind of, I don't know, did not see that coming.
It's so exciting.
It was the impulse that I acted upon and announced it, and it just felt so great. So one is on the schedule in October, but in spite how different all the processes are, addressing all the different layers of our multi-dimensional complex nature, there are 3 things that are common in all of them. First of all, that they're all done in a slightly altered state.
Altered?
Yeah, it's not completely altered like with hypnosis or psychedelics. It's slightly altered, that you are still in contact with all your own faculties, with your brilliant mind, but it's slightly altered. So you remove the debris, kind of the fog in your head. You go into that space where you can actually see the patterns of your behaviors and emotional patterns. And it's achieved by a series of steps, different type of movement, different type of breathing, different type of movement, different type of breathing. And in a certain sequence, you shift into that state of like relaxed focus, this expanded version of heightened awareness that is very sharp. It's really an amazing state to just have as a tool. It's very practical, very pragmatic. Like when you feel anxious, you can just do that, and within a couple of minutes, you are grounded. The common denominator between all the processes are, first of all, is that they're all done in this slightly altered state. The second specific common denominator is that all of them activate all three parts of the brain with the same intensity at the same time. See, that's the trick, that we have a chance to create a new reference point in the nervous system, how it feels when all of it works as a team versus against each other. It's not like we want to stay defragmented, right? Our system wants to get in alignment. It just doesn't know how. So in all those processes and exercises, we keep introducing that state of alignment, which does not necessarily offers the solution to a problem, but it introduces the state of being that will make inevitably the solution possible, foundable. So this is a very big experience to create a new reference point in the nervous system versus just keep running on autopilot and making all the decisions from that place of being defragmented, fear-based habit. So the third common denominator is the integration process. After each process, there is at least an hour of driving that new reference point into the blood and bones. It's kind of bringing it from the realm of idea and vague sensation into actual three-dimensional realm of the physiology. So kind of allowing that new software to be installed into the hard drive.
Do you have different practices for each of these steps? Is it like one, like the first day is working on alter states, and then the three brains?
It's all very fast. You get into that altered state before every process. It's pretty thought through because we work on all kinds of family situation. Of course, you can't get around it. No matter what you think you've done, you still need to go back to the very beginning, to that point where you took on that job of walking the earth. Like before you even were conceived, you have to go back into the very beginning when the decision in your spirit sprouted into existence to, I think I'm going to go and get a body there. It's like, look at this mess. I think I can make a difference. I'm gonna go there and tell them how to love each other, for fuck's sakes.
Gonna show them.
Those crazy people.
Oh my God. That's kind of amazing, because when you go back that far, you're really, it's like cutting off that bottom pearl of the string and then all the pearls fall off, right? So you go right to the root and you excavate that, and then everything will clear out.
Exactly. And it's basically, as I said, it's important what happened to us because it really established a set of skills that our soul's agenda required. That's the thing. The soul has an agenda of its own. So that's our basic settings. The limbic imprint is our basic settings. Like your TV has basic settings, your computer, your phone, it all has basic settings. So that limbic imprint is our basic settings. But then again, the skill is to realize that, oh, we can change the settings. This is a very big thing.
That right there is where we really truly step into our power, knowing that, wait a minute, I can change this. I can change those settings. I can rewrite the program completely.
Yeah. And I cannot stop being amazed at how powerful it is. Like when I realized that I can choose a whole different reality. I undid the whole country out of my existence. You know? I was born in the 50s in Siberia. Try that basic setting. and yeah, it's amazing, really. The sky is the limit, as I say.
The sky is the limit. Well, I love your tagline too. Like, what if nothing is holding you back?
Because what is holding us back is our basic settings, is the conditioning we absorbed with mother's milk, literally. And not only with mother's milk, but the egg that became me was inside my mother when she was still inside of her mother. But by now everybody probably knows that. So everything that was happening to my grandmother, which is just unthinkable, unbelievable. She was little girl through the Russian Revolution, the First World War, the Second World War, the Stalin's repressions, the nightmare of a first half of the 20th century was just one big nightmare. And it's all right in her DNA, in her bones. And she got everything that was happening with her foremothers because, until very recently, women were treated like property. Women did not have any voting power, any like independency, bank accounts. We didn't have anything. We were a tradable commodity, killable commodity. It was not a crime to kill your own wife. It's a lot of trauma is in our genetic history when domestic violence was a norm, when beating a woman, raping a woman, it was a norm. Any soldier walking by could rape your ancestor, and there is nothing she could do. So it's all pretty heavy programming. Add to that all the plagues and famines and inquisition fires and tortures and what happens in the name of Christ. That's don't get me started on that. I mean, we have a, a bloody history that nobody should be proud of. We don't really have much to be proud of. The way we treated our children too. The children were commodity, until recently you can even ship a child. Did you know that you can
No,
actually
no,
by mail?
that's crazy.
Yeah, children were used in heavy labor. They were doing all the dirty work. They were, you
There are
know,
still countries that have that going on, actually.
but it was here too. It probably still somewhere here. The children were not treated as people. Mr. Freud did a good job on that, saying that, you're not even a human being until you can think and talk and remember. But the thing is, by the time you can think and remember, all the basic settings are already in place. So all the way we were treated in our genetic memory before we were 3, left alone, hungry, overused, abused, sexually abused, that was also the norm. Sexual abuse of children.
We have a lot to work through,
Exactly. We have a lot to work through.
and we have to do it quickly.
Right. The good news that it's possible. The
Yeah.
good news is that you can't clean that much mess. There is so much mess and like environmental pollution. You can't clean it. All you can do is basically mutate to be able to thrive within the situation of that present, harvest the lessons and start making different choices. So basically you need to create alternative routes. Like we have those clusters of neurons that we have generally 7 clusters for the lifetime. And they one by one get kind of overused and burned. So we get less and less capacity of our brain. So what I understand happens is that in every dead cluster, there is some still usable neurons, and you can basically create a new cluster out of all the survivors, um, and get another lease on life.
Thank you so much for all this talk. And it's funny because I said to some people I was going to talk about water birth, but it's interesting that we really didn't go too much into that. So I had a couple of questions. How does water birth support the entire mom and baby bonding process?
The bonding process, it's water really helps a woman to relax in labor and take the edge off when she's tired, when she needs to rest between contractions. And the bonding is not really affected by the water. It just helps the mother. But the whole idea of water birth came up when Igor Cherkovsky, the Russian pioneer of water birth, in 62 came up with the idea that we all are the side effect of the concussion we get at birth, because we go from the weightlessness of the mother's womb and catapult under the earthly atmospheric pressure. And he said, we're such an idiot because, in his really like funny language, he was talking about, he said, we're really the result of big trauma. That's how he understood perpetual stupidity of human race. you know, we must be just somebody hit us with a hammer on the exit, because how else do you explain that we're killing each other and hurting each other and unable to cooperate and unable to communicate properly? There must be some explanation, because no other species kill their own so consistently and violently. And they fight, yes, but they're fighting like for in the mating season, and when it's like we have to fight over the same gazelle if we're lions. There is like a reasonable amount, and then we're not violent if we don't have a need to survive. But humans keep creating the same kind of scenario. Even if you look at the futuristic movies, for example, the movie that portrays some future civilization 100, 200 years from now, it's still the same dynamic of greed and jealousy and betrayal. And even futurists cannot imagine that humans are not going to behave in a not play dirty games. Igor was saying that we need to eliminate that concussion of the gravitational field. Let's put laboring women in the water, because he was running around with two eggs, and he would just break one egg in the glass of water and it remains round. Then he would break another one on the skillet, and here we have breakfast, because the yolk goes flat. And he said, that's what happens to our brain. So his whole idea of placing a woman in the water was to protect baby's brain from concussion. That's where the idea came from. But then women found out that they feel a lot of support and relaxation in the water, and they just were able to gather their strength back if they're exhausted. And it's not about bonding per se. It's usually bonding comes strong because when a woman knows about placing herself in the water, she already approached the gestation and birth more or less intelligently and did some research, and she was already connecting with the child. So that's the type of the mother that would have a much stronger bond with the baby. It's not the water per se, it's the whole quality of presence that the mother was able and willing to offer to her conception, gestation, birth, and the baby after the baby's out.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I can't help but thinking with the water too, like there's a way to, program water with thoughts,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Bring it in. Anything. We were trying crystals and herbs and essential oils and meditating around the birth tub. All the elders would come and put their blessings into the water. We tried everything and anything you can think of, whatever your heart's desire. And it's even more so ask your baby, because where that baby is right now, in that still very very connected, still within that source from which it slowly arrives, in that place, that baby has a much larger menu to choose from. So the communication with the baby is the answer to many prayers. If you can really tune into your baby and ask and request, like, what would you like me to eat? What would you like me to do? How would you like your birth? Because that baby might not be a water element. It could be the fire and earth element, and it wants to be born somewhere by the fireplace, or living campfire, and somewhere on the mountain in the forest. It could be um, something very different than what you imagine.
I felt that a lot in my birth. I was constantly talking to the spirit of the baby, spirit soul of the baby, to just really kind of, I knew it was these two beings working together. It wasn't just me doing what I want to do. That, the baby is another living being that has a
Exactly.
say and is coming from a place of, it's a higher existence where they're coming from. So they have a lot more wisdom
Exactly.
at their disposal. If I can slow down enough and pay attention enough to receive the message, that's probably the hard part. Right? Right? Yeah.
To receive the message, you need to be relaxed and focused. That's a seeming contradiction, relaxed and focused, but it's not. It's that state of being that allows magic to happen when you're just surrendered and in total trust of the rightness of the moment, of the trajectory, that everything is unfolding beautifully, even though it might not look like it. But that deep trust that there is a bigger picture that you are fitting perfectly into, but at the same time focused. Like, we, especially in our reality, we have to constantly, like, hold our ground and filter the invasion of all kinds of chaos and whatever wants to take over the space that is rightfully yours. This is my birthright. This is the cocoon I am holding. So you want to be in chaos outside, like out. So there is that field of coherency, integrity, deep communication with the baby who is in deep communication with the source. That's the place to create anything, baby or a project.
Yeah. Yeah, or a project, right?
Or a new version of yourself. It's like, okay, time for upgrade. Woo! There she goes.
Yeah, relaxed focus. Yeah. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you. I guess one of them was about the maternal mortality rates. And is water birth, or I would even say conscious birth, a safer alternative?
The maternal mortality in medical textbooks is quoted very generously. See, that's what happens to women before the medical profession came into existence. But there is a big fat but in there, because they were counting maternity mortality without knowing the cause. Because the cause could be her malnutrition, the cause could be because her husband was beating her, left and right throughout the whole gestation. It could have been that the doctor came in with dirty hands. Doctors did not know that they need to wash hands between going into doing the autopsy on a cadaver or treating some really bad, sick, virus patient, and then going into the next room with the same pair of hands and touching her. They did not know that they needed to wash hands. And then they were touching the baby with those hands. And then women were having up to 20 babies in their, like, every year they had a baby. Who has the ability to have a new baby every year? Women were depleted, they were raped into babies, because even after the first one she needed a break, but her husband wouldn't take no for an answer. And even after third, fourth baby, you want to die already, because they all are dirty. And she looks at them, should I just wash these ones or make a new one? It's like, really. Yeah, it's so
Funny. Yeah. Okay. So
the
these
mortality
statistics.
rates were horrific, but they do not specify the cause of death.
Yeah.
And the cause of death was a general lifestyle. Mistreatment, when a woman didn't know how she's gonna feed the first one, and then she made another 20.
Right.
It's like the poverty was real. The
Yeah.
hunger, the lack of clean water. They didn't have toilets, they didn't have hygiene, they didn't have sanitary napkins or liners for their periods. Everything was so disgustingly dirty. And when you think about it, they used horses. Those horses were peeing and pooping everywhere. And then if it's drought, then all of this was in the air, and the flies and mosquitoes. It was just a highly uncomfortable lifestyle. They don't show it to us in period movies. When we see historical scenes, you don't get the stench.
Yeah.
Don't you don't get that the bottom of their skirts were just soaking, soiled in piss. It was just really and I read somewhere that aphrodisiacs, that big word aphrodisiac, it was some kind of mouthwash that took away the bad, bad breath. Oh my God, I can breathe in your presence. How sexy.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. Right? And so now it means something totally different. But then it was just like, let's put a little perfume on it.
Right. Yeah. Like if you don't stink really bad, then it's already turned on. So yeah. So
That's great.
speaking of mortality rates,
That's great.
yeah,
Oh my God.
the mortality rates were high in general. The like in 19th century, uh, normal lifespan was something like 41 years. They just didn't live long.
Yeah.
So
Well, gratefully, we're moving into a new era and we're going to live longer and we're going to thrive better and we're going to create a beautiful earth with conscious coupling and conscious birthing
I
and
really appreciate my toilet.
lots of toilets, proper toilets.
and showers and counting my blessings. I have air conditioning and the heating system. And thank you for all the conveniences. I know I'm just the first world
Conveniences are nice.
prayer, but I am the child of my era and my geography. So I really appreciate the conveniences of modern life. Even the fact that we can talk. You're in Florida, I'm on the West Coast. Yay! I
That's
love it when the
amazing.
technology is working for me. Yeah.
So, okay, so if anybody would want to go to your workshop, I know that you have a couple seats left.
Yeah, it's
Where would
a
they find you?
good question. The newsletter is about to come out with the announcement. The newsletter even didn't go out yet. It's coming out on Monday. Um, but if you are not signed up to receive my newsletters, go to my website, birthintobeing.com. And there is an announcement there about the upcoming workshop in October. It's 10 through 14th, 5 days of nonstop 10, like not 10 hours a day. It's from 10 to 6. That's 8 hours a day. We will be working out the kinks from the system. And it's in Ashland, Oregon. So the nearest airport is Medford. And how to sign up? Well, at this point, it's only a Facebook event. It's on my page on Facebook, Elena Tonetti-Vladimirova, and go to that Facebook event and let me know that you're interested. I am very low tech because I was retired until now for a few years already after having most amazing 40-year career. I taught in 58 countries in 25 years. And I was so relieved when lockdown came. Well, I have a legitimate excuse to stop. Because I was running on fumes the last couple of years, but I couldn't cancel anything because it was booked. It's like it would be sold off before I like. Oh no! Wait a minute! I didn't want this one. But
So this
yeah,
is a very, very special offering that you're doing right
yeah,
now.
it's the first time since the lockdown. So I didn't do anything for 5 years, and I have no idea what happened. But all of a sudden, I just got excited about them. I was very happy not to have any deadlines, any pressure. I was just dancing every day. I'm a dancer, so I just go out and have a great time. And all of a sudden, I found this place that didn't exist. This couple came to the area and built a beautiful workshop space. And I came there for some gathering of a sort. And I saw it and was like, wow, it's calling my name. And I said, well, how about I'll book the 5 day slot with you? And I got so excited. And it was like, yay. And yeah, because a couple of years ago, I tried to find a space and I didn't find, there is no workshop venue here in this area. And I cannot travel because I'm taking care of my 91-year-old mom. I can't go away for a week. Now it's right here by my house. The universe heard that I was saying, I can't work. I have a legitimate excuse. Like, no, you don't. You don't anymore. Somebody came over and built one. Okay.
Right? That's just the universe saying, like, no, you need more, you need to do more. We need more
Right.
of this. We need to clear more people.
Right. And I am like totally for it. It's like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and you're a master at it. I haven't taken your course personally. I would love to, but I think I'm double booked that weekend, so maybe you'll do another one.
We don't know.
It's possible.
I'm not saying yes or no, if anything is possible. But my students, I actually, the last 15 years, I was training people specifically for that because I knew that I'm not going to last forever.
Yeah.
So my graduates that are now offering my courses are through the roof better than me. They're
Really?
they're newer models, you know, they're equipped with better gadgets than I ever was. So I'm like looking at them, I should take your workshop, you know. They
I love that because it is that next generation. They're the upgrade, right?
they're amazing. Yeah.
They're clearing the path for more beings to come and bring more light, more light, more light.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, I had my share, you know, being born in Siberia in the 50s, blah blah blah. I understand things. I talk about things, but these girls are living it. You know, they are my poster children. They're actually doing everything
Yeah.
that I'm talking about. So that's why I'm saying they're better than me because they're just amazing. I'm deeply honored that women like that um, call me their mentor. It's like must be doing something right.
Yes, you are. Well, maybe maybe we can put some of their links down in the bottom for people to access their offerings as
Sure.
well.
They're mainly in Europe, though.
Well, this is going to be on YouTube, so it's global. So
Okay.
people tune in from all over.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I had fun. I love you. You're
I
doing an amazing job. And I just take my hat off to every person who is willing and able to just live, enjoy life, and not waste it. It's really an amazing experience to have a body. You just think about it, how we have bodies against all odds, you know, like everything we really know about making a body, there shouldn't be any bodies here because we are really made in spite of all the complexities of the process. It's so highly unlikely that all of the moving parts will fit together,
right?
but um, here we are.
Here we are.
Success story. Each one of us, just by being born, is already a complete success story. And we have the whole line of survivors behind us. It's not just bloody history, it's the line of survivors through that bloody history. You know what I mean? It's every one of us is here because our ancestors had what it takes and win with flying colors. And we're
Yeah.
here.
We are
Yeah.
all a success already.
Exactly. So let's not waste that impulse of the great spirit in making sure that we walk this earth.
And live to the
Let's have fun. Yeah. That's that's my new religion. Let's
Let's
have
go dance. Soon I will drop all the links for everybody who wants to learn more. And it was such a pleasure having you. And I'm so grateful for your time and your experience and your expertise and your wisdom being shed on all of us who need it and love it. And the time is now. Amen. Thank you.
my pleasure.
Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We will see you next time on Most Amazing Woman.